Hello, this is Arthur, Arcturus 12. Also, I'm kind of spontaneously giving this little message right now. Uh, if the followers are listening, then let them listen. If you are listening, then I would like to give you a happy day today. But really, I'm speaking this. If nobody ends up listening, I'm going to end up putting it in the reel. And there's no way to put more than a minute reel here on Instagram. I'm doing this because I'm I'm not uptight, but what I am as an artist, I'm a very observant artist as I go into these galleries in Central Florida. And it takes an artist to be very critical, not too negative, but critical to a constructive degree. And hello, Joto. Thank you for listening. I thank you for following. I'm very impressed by your desire of art, and I'm very impressed, Giotto, by your taste of art. And but I'm speaking to, hopefully you know English as I'm speaking here. Here in the Central Florida region, not to demask in a negative way to the Central Floridians, in the galleries and in the museums. But as I see, this is my room here with my pieces, real quick. But as I see here in the Central Florida region, I see a lot of detailed work. What I mean by detailed work, for those that are well studied in art, there are two main schools of artistry that dance with each other. There is expressionism and there is illusionism. What I mean by illusionism is really what people perceive as realistic, detailed work. You see that a lot, very prevalent in Central Florida, in the galleries and in the museums. Nothing wrong with that. But I do believe that in this time and era, if we are going to grow in the community of artistry for the populace that are going to witness and are going to have a better taste of artistry, I believe that a city built with galleries and museums exhibiting their shows must have a balanced meal. Why? Because if you look at the history of art, you will see, even though during the Impressionist time, you will see that there was a Salon of the Rejected for those that well know about artistry because of the Impressionist era, with Manet as the forefather of Impressionism. And, you know, Impressionism was very not looked good upon because of the lack of precise line and their lack of understanding traditional coloring. Now, during that time, I want you to understand, that those that don't understand, because that's what I'm here to do, to educate with a little bit I know, and to better frame, according to my opinion, what artistry should exemplify in an area like the Central Florida region. But before we get into the change or the format of progression, we need to understand our roots. And there's no fruits without your roots. You have to be educated in your artistry. One of the people on Instagram, I don't even know his name, and I went through his sites, and he said, if you're going to become a real artist, you need to have some sort of a foundational education. If you have no source of education, then where is your substance and why you're doing your art? What is your purpose? What is your concept? What are you projecting? What are you willing for people to receive and to fulfill in their progression of how they perceive art? And so as we go back into Impressionism, Impressionism was not really looked good upon because of Manet gave a painterly brushstroke, and he came out of a professor that I forget right now in his teaching and the way he was taught as a student. One of his teachers was very, very strict on the precise line and the precise stroke. And here comes Manet going into the Impressionist era because of the aerophotography of the times and the pigments, the factories that were creating new pigments, heightened pigments, heightened coloring. And now they're reading light in a different way. And now it's not dark in the background. Now it's blues and purples in the backgrounds. And now that was a revolution of its time for painting. And plus the stroke was very quick because they needed to get the precise moment, that precise expression, that precise feeling. I have an impressionist piece that I did when I was early in my years, and at about 16 years of age, and I did this piece right here. I'm going to bring it over here. And it's dealing with light. That's an impressionist piece. A little bit more detailed than what I'm used to. And of course, this is me now. This piece was exhibited in the art house, and it was exhibited also in excuse me real quick. You can't see it because of the lighting. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? I'm in my house right now. But there's an impressionist piece right there, kind of impressionistic. Right there. You can see it better there. And here is again the basilisk-like piece. That's mine too. So Arthur, you just came out of Impressionism, and now you're talking about your differences of what you did in your younger years. Well, for me to do Impressionism right now, there's no purpose. Why? Because we're in the modern age, and there's no, a lot of people, some people use cameras still, but that season is gone of perceiving light. We perceive light differently even now through the computer age. So people are doing computer work. So when the season is gone, for my personal opinion, there's no reason why to do it again, unless you're going to do it in a new frame of reference, a new frame of expression. Expressionism, which the school of thought that I abide by, Expressionism did not begin in its roots from where it was coined after the post-impressionist era with Munch and Gauguin and Mueller from Europe. Expressionism was out and about from the beginnings of time, from primitivism. This is why Picasso studied the African primitivism, because the African art was perceived as something very heartfelt, very spontaneous, very expressive. And I'm not going to get into the thought pattern of whether it was educated or not. But the Indians in the Native America, you will see studies of the Native Americans. They get bones and they use powdered color. They take the marrow out of the bone and they blow it on the walls. And you see primitive, uneducated drawings of cows and horses and handprints. In essence, that was Expressionism, because it was expressing their thought. It was expressing their feeling. And there was not a firm foundation of what we would consider traditional education. The catacombs, the Christians that drew in the catacombs in the upper Mediterranean regions. In Giotto, you might know about this history, you who have joined and listened. They weren't educated in artistry in the traditional sense of the word. They drew and they did Jesus Christ. And when you look at it, it looked like a child did it. But it was very powerful. And people visit these catacombs to this day to see this artistry. Later on, art began to be traditionally educated. They began to format it in a more precise way of what artistry should be. Classicism, realism. We go into the modern age with Chuck Close, and he deals with photorealism, which means that when you see the piece, you don't even see a painterly stroke. You see no expression. You begin to see as if it were a photograph, and it's actually paint. But even Chuck Close, listen to this now. Listen to the balanced meal of Chuck Close. He started with photorealism, precise. You couldn't even see no painted stroke. It looked like a photograph. It was a photograph. But later on, when he damaged his eye and his back was messed up, and he sat on some type of chair that they made specifically formatted for him, he made abstract pieces in the pointillist way. For y'all that want to go into Google, check out Chuck Close from the United States. I believe he's from the United States. He is the forefather of photorealism. But because his eyes was a little messed up, his arm couldn't move right, and he had a back problem, this electric chair would get you up, and he would paint. Every little piece was an abstract piece in the form of pointillism. When you look at it at a distance, it looked real. So with Chuck Close, he has a balanced meal of expressionism and illusionism, which what we call, in the school of thought that I abide by, we call realism, which is really illusionism because it's a painting on a two-plane field. It's not three-dimensional. Unless you got a textured piece like this one, which is three-dimensional. But most pieces, traditional pieces, you will see a plain flat platform, and you will see two dimensions. So in this, there is a discrepancy between what you linger in most and what you're passionate with most is the detailed stroke or the expressionistic stroke. So really, when you look at history, what are you trying to say here, Arthur? What I'm saying is that in the dance of history, of art, now I'm giving you probably a $200, I'm just playing here, but I'm giving you like a $200 to $300 teaching right now in a matter of maybe 10 minutes or something, 8 minutes. This is precious jewels that I'm giving you right now for those that want to be educated in the arts. If you look at the history and the primitive line and towards the modern line of history and artistry, you will find expressionism and illusionism dancing back and forth. You will see classical art, Rococo, which is more ornamented, expressive art and realism. You will see neoclassical art. You will see all of a sudden impressionism, post-impressionism, optical art, which is detailed art, optical art in the 80s, I believe in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. And then you get into the trance and avant-garde expressionism, which is Clemente from Italia. You see Basilis from Germany. And you will see other artists that came out of New York in the late 70s, early 80s that went back into the painterly stroke from the optical period of the detailed line. Now, Arthur, what are you trying to say here? What are you saying within the realm of Central Florida? You started with Central Florida, went into the roots, and now can you go back into what the purpose of you saying this is in? Well, what I'm saying is that if Central Floridian galleries and museums, which I respect greatly, if they balance their meal a little bit more, if they don't get so accustomed to see detailed work as I've seen through Instagram accounts and through the galleries that I visited, and to the galleries that and the museum that I participated in exhibiting my pieces after 20 years of not exhibiting. I believe that if we're going to mature, I'm speaking for the receptor, I'm speaking for the receiver, I'm speaking for the ones who are receiving, because it's really for them. It's for us to be assured in our art, but it's for the followers. It's for the ones that are receiving, the ones who are going to be glimpsing. Remember, art is the medium between you or the populace perceiving what's happening in history, what's happening in the environmental stimulus of the day. And sometimes when museums and galleries are lopsided in a dimension, it could mean that the culture itself is being lopsided in perceiving only that dimension. Very powerful what I'm sharing right now if you really understand what I'm saying. But I believe that there are hidden expressionist artists in Central Florida. I'm speaking to you now that might be seeing this reel in the length of time. If you're hidden and if you're ashamed of sharing your expressionism, like what you got behind me, if you might be not wanting to exhibit for X amount of reasons, you expressionist artists, it's time for you to come out of your caves. Because it's time for you to cause a balanced meal to the galleries and the museums that be. I'm saying this because there is an awesome manager, and I'm not ashamed to share his name. His name is Kenneth. He is from the Jam Art Gallery. Those who desire to visit his gallery, if you're in the Central Florida region, he is more than welcome to welcome you. And he has allowed me, an expressionist, to put a taste into his gallery. His gallery has a lot of artists that deal with landscapes, traditional pieces, and it's beautiful. I don't have anything against detailed pieces. But he understands that the balanced meal, if you go to the restaurant, you want some good introduction to the meal. If you're going to be in an elegant restaurant and you want to feel your elegance and see your superiority and your assurance in who you are when you enter an elegant restaurant, like in Italia, you will have some bread with some sauce in the beginning. You're going to want to eat some meat and some noodles. You want to have a little bit of everything. To have a good balanced meal and to taste. What is to taste? And to fulfill yourself in the pleasure of tasting variety. And so I'm speaking this with all respect and the love and the honor I have to the galleries in Central Florida and to the managers and to the head honchos. I want to thank for the heads that have received me and the Winter Park Retirement Gallery. Again, Kenneth in the Jam Art Gallery, even in the Art House, who has accepted my expression in the midst of a lot of traditional work. And again, I'm not excluding traditional work. I am all for traditional work. All I'm saying is it's good to have a balanced meal so we can balance the perception of the culture that we abide by. So with this, I leave you. Thank you, Giotto, for following. Hopefully you receive something. Hopefully you understand English, because I think you're from Italy. Thank you, and bless you greatly. Stay tuned for the coming exhibits I will be performing in and exhibiting. I really would like to do some installation art, some performance art, which I did early in my 20s. But now I'm starting from zero. I'm starting to network again. I'm wanting to sell my pieces, but I'm also wanting more to cause change to the minds that are willing to change for the betterment of a people. Thank you for listening. God bless you all. Giotto, thank you for listening. Thank you greatly. Be blessed and highly favored. Bye-bye.